Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we got a Savox video, and this is 7 of the most horrifying animal attacks. Before we get into this, I would like to apologize for one thing, because I didn't realize something. This isn't something I deeply apologize for, I just want to bring it up. I did not realize during my when I do ghost reactions that y'all can't see my mouse. I thought y'all could, y'all can't. So when I say something's right here, I realize you can't see where I'm directing it to. So I will be more descriptive from now on and be talking about where I see something. I don't think many of you find it a big deal. I just wanted to bring it up because I noticed it while watching to check my mic, and I wanted to bring it up for that reason. Anyways, this one is, as I repeat, 7 of the most horrifying animal attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, stick down below. Let's go.
Something I haven't shared with you all before is that I've always had a fascination with animals. I always used to watch wildlife documentaries when I was a kid, most of them hosted by David Attenborough, and I even spent 3 years at college studying animal management, though I unfortunately had to drop out because it got too difficult after a while. And of course, when you learn about animals, you not only see how fascinating and wonderful to look at they can be, they can also be dangerous and potentially deadly. There have of course been plenty of stories over the years of people being viciously mauled and even killed by animals, showing that animals are just as capable of being killers as we are.
Oh yeah, in fact, I'd say animals are way more dangerous than we are. Animals are way more dangerous than we are sometimes when it comes to the way they will go at you. Because they don't have a conscience. They don't have remorse. They don't have feelings. They just go at you or they don't. Well, at least most animals, like dogs that do, but like a bear, for example, ain't got no care for you. It knows to protect its children, and that's it. If you get into it, it will maul your ass.
So I decided to go over some of the more well-known cases of people being attacked by animals. Here are 7 of the most horrifying animal attacks.
Frodo.
Gombe National Park in Tanzania has long been the most famous place for the research of wild chimpanzees in Africa. It gained worldwide attention in the 1960s for the studies conducted by Jane Goodall into the behavior of the Kasakela chimpanzee community. She discovered that the chimps were even more intelligent than scientists had previously thought, as she observed them using tools, such as using sticks to fish termites out of their mounds, using leaves as a sponge to soak up water from trees for drinking, and using stones or wood to crack open nuts that were otherwise too hard to break open with their teeth. However, she also witnessed the darker sides of the chimps, namely that they could be extremely aggressive to one another, to the point of killing, and that they also occasionally consumed meat. Up until that point, chimps had been seen as peaceful herbivores. Goodall would also name the chimpanzees she encountered, rather than assign them a number, as was the scientific norm at the time. Among the first chimps she named were David Greybeard, the first chimp to ever show trust towards her, Flo, the dominant female of the community, and her children, most notably Flo's daughter, Fifi. Fifi had 2 sons in the 1970s, Freud, born in 1971, and Frodo, born in 1976. Frodo showed from a very young age that he was a very aggressive chimp. Researchers noted that other youngsters would run away from him, as any time he played with other chimps, he'd always end up hurting one of them. Jane Good.
Oh my god, so this chimp is just literally a fighting chimp. This chimp just hurts people. This chimp ain't meant to be no one's pet. It's just like, it just will attack. It's all it does. It's all it does. It's lived from the moment it was born young. It just kept attacking people.
Goodall has also stated that Frodo would be aggressive towards her as well, from as early as the age of only 4 years old, where he would repeatedly throw large rocks at her. As the years went by, Freud, Frodo's older brother, became a well-respected male in the group and quickly rose up the ranks. Frodo, on the other hand, was feared by the others, as he would bully every chimp who got in his way, using his size to intimidate them. Male chimpanzees are usually around 45 kilograms. Frodo, however, was believed to be anywhere from 55 to 65 kilograms, making him one of the heaviest chimps in Gombe's history. As he reached maturity, his aggression only became worse. In 1988, Frodo attacked Gary Larson, creator of the Far Side comic series, when he was visiting Gombe to observe the chimps. Jane Goodall later informed Larson that Frodo's actions were simply in his nature, as he was well known amongst the researchers for being a bully by that point. Goodall herself would be the victim of a vicious attack at the hands of Frodo a year later, in which he beat her head so violently that she nearly suffered a broken neck.
From very early on, he singled me out, and he didn't just push me over, he would come back and then stamp on me again, maybe 3 times in a row, and sometimes drag me. He's dragged other people. He stamped on other people. But he has a special expression on his face for me. We've all noticed, and we don't know why.
Frodo also put his aggression into her.
So this is the chimpanzee that just ain't fucking a bully. This guy's a aggressive MFer. This is an aggressive motherfucker. He just wants to... This girl, who every other chimpanzee trusts and every other chimpanzee is fine with, Frodo just ain't having it. Just doesn't want anything to do with humans. Just clearly is the one leading the Planet of the Apes. He just fighting.
Hunting, and is believed to have reduced the local red colobus monkey population by 10% in the space of 4 years. The only chimps that Frodo actually seemed to care about were his close family members, particularly his mother Fifi and older brother Freud. Due to Fifi being one of the highest ranking females in the community, Frodo had what could be considered a rather privileged upbringing, and could even have been described as being something of a spoiled brat. When Freud became the alpha male, Frodo became his second in command, and only bullied the other chimps even more. Freud would usually put Frodo in his place when he stepped out of line, but after a mange epidemic swept through the community, Frodo managed to depose his own brother due to Freud becoming sick, and became the alpha male. He ruled through violence and intimidation, and he also killed several chimps from rival communities who came into his territory. Unfortunately, chimpanzees would not be the only casualties of Frodo's wrath. On May 15, 2002, Rukia Siddiqui, her baby daughter Mayasa, and her niece were travelling through the forest from their village to Lake Tanganyika. As they were walking, they could hear the sound of the chimpanzees. They could tell from the noise that it must have been a hunting party. Naturally, they assumed the chimps were hunting for monkeys, and knew that if they stayed out of their way, they would be safe. However, as they continued walking, the noise got closer and closer. Before they could react, Frodo charged at them, and grabbed Mayasa from Rukia Siddiqui's back, and dragged her deep into the jungle.
I was overwhelmed by the sudden attack. The chimpanzee started unwrapping the cloth I'd tied my baby to my back with, and then ran off with my child.
After frantically searching for the baby, Siddiqui found her hanging from a tree, and was horrified to see that the baby had been partially eaten by Frodo. The attack made the news worldwide, with many...
Frodo ran, took the child, ran away with it, killed it, and I started eating it. I love chimpanzees and monkeys. Okay, these are my favorite. Those are my favorite animals. Monkeys and chimpanzees will always be my favorite animal. But when they're dangerous, but then they're in the forest, right? So like, is it? Because my thought was maybe they need to be put down. But now I'm thinking, I'm like, they're in their habitat. They're in their place. So maybe they have the right to, kind of. In their mind, they're just reacting. They're doing what they gotta do.
Many calling for Frodo to be put down for what he had done, saying that he committed an act of murder. Jane Goodall argued that Frodo was simply acting on his predatory instincts.
Frodo killed a human infant, something which we'd been predicting would happen for a very, very long time.
This chimpanzee had a predator striking instincts that most chimpanzees don't have. And because of that, and that aggressive nature, it caused him to not have remorse, not think twice before when doing what he did. But it doesn't make him the bad guy. He's just doing what he does. He's a predator.
Because chimpanzees are hunters, and although at Gombe their favorite prey is monkey infants, human beings are just one other kind of primate.
Frodo was not put down, but a year after the attack, he became gravely ill and disappeared for a period. When he finally reappeared, he had grown thin and frail, a stark contrast to the imposing presence he once had. The other chimps hadn't forgotten the bullying they suffered at Frodo's hands, and shunned him, with the males giving him the same abuse he'd inflicted on them. He remained a low-ranking and hated male for the rest of his life, until he was viciously attacked by one of the other males, and suffered a serious bite wound to his groin that became infected. He died of his wound in 2013, at the age of 37.
Wow, so he disappeared because he got ill. He came back flat, like skinny and fragile. And when he came back, because he was skinny, fragile, and wasn't as imposing and dominating that, the chimpanzees pretty much gave Frodo what Frodo gave to them. They bullied and beat up Frodo the way Frodo beat up them. And then he got attacked once, got an injury in his groin that became infected, and he died in 2013. Wow!
The Liard River Park is a provincial park in British Columbia, Canada. It's famous for its natural hot water river and also has the largest natural hot springs in Canada. Naturally, the park attracts a large number of tourists. However, it's also home to many different kinds of animals, most notably black bears. The bears pose a potential threat to tourists during the summer months, as they have been known to feed as little as 10 feet away from people bathing in the hot springs. Despite the close proximity between the tourists and the bears, there had never been any reported attacks in the area until August of 1997, when a freak bear attack would leave 2 people dead. Patty McConnell, a 37-year-old mother of 2 from Paris, Texas, had been driving towards Alaska for over a week with her 2 children, 13-year-old Kelly and 7-year-old Kristen. She had hopes of getting a job in Alaska and starting a new life for her and her children. McConnell, deciding to take a break from driving and as a treat to her children, drove to Liard Park so the family could all experience the hot springs together. After soaking in the lower pool, the family decided to move further into the woods to the more secluded upper pool. Kristen made some friends with some other children there and raced back to the lower pool with them. While following Kristen, Patty and Kelly came to a viewing platform and began identifying the various exotic plants in the area. Patty, worried about Kristen, went to go and look for her. As she was making her way down the steps, she saw something in the corner of her eye. She turned to find a large male black bear in the shrubbery. Patty, frozen in fear, quietly called out to Kelly, trying to tell him about the bear. Kelly thought she was joking and didn't turn around. Patty called out to him again. Hearing the panic in his mother's voice, Kelly turned round to see the bear staring directly at his mother. Kelly told her not to make any sudden movements. Kelly then slowly made his way to his mother, but before he could reach her, the bear lunged through the railing and onto the boardwalk. Patty and Kelly ran for their lives. However, Patty was not fast enough, and the bear pounced on and began mauling her. Kelly tried kicking the bear in the face in a desperate attempt to direct its attention to him. The bear simply ignored him and continued attacking Patty. Kelly then grabbed a tree branch and smacked the bear in the nose, drawing blood. The bear then turned its attention to Kelly, throwing him into the air with him landing right next to his mother's body. Ray Kitchen, a 56-year-old truck driver from Fort Nelson, British Columbia, who was visiting the park with his wife and daughter, heard the screams and rushed to the scene to investigate. He found the bear attacking Kelly with Patty's corpse laying nearby. He grabbed a tree branch and rammed it into...
So this bear killed the mother and the child, and her child. I think it was... I don't know if it was a 7-year-old or 13-year-old, one of the two. Is when you don't show remorse. Bears don't have time for your games. I don't know what made the bear attack, but a bear was always a threat. A bear is never not a threat to someone. It always will be. Every bear is a threat to human. And once you understand that, you'll do better with survival.
To the bear's stomach, hoping to get him off of Kelly. The bear then attacked Kitchen, slamming him through the railing and into the bush. Kitchen began screaming for help as he tried to protect his head from the bear's claws. Ingrid Bailey, a wilderness firefighter and paramedic, hearing Kitchen's screams, gathered as much wood as she could and rushed to where the attack was taking place. By the time she arrived at the scene, Kitchen had already been gravely injured by the bear. Bailey tried to distract the bear by throwing wood at it and screaming at it to leave Kitchen alone. Unfortunately, the bear ignored her and grabbed Kitchen by his neck, almost completely severing it.
That is insane! The bear's not even the bear's not even reacting to the people throwing wood at it, and she's screaming at it, which usually would you think scared the bear off. This bear's like, no, fuck you, and just stomping on this dude's neck. Oh my god!
From his body, killing him instantly. Realizing that it was too late to save Kitchen, Bailey ran to the McConnells and found that Kelly was still alive. While she began treating Kelly's injuries, the bear moved further down the boardwalk towards the upper pool. The bathers in the pool ran as soon as they saw the bear. However, 28-year-old Arie van der Velden slipped and fell. The bear immediately pounced on him and began slashing at his flesh. After being told about
This bear is attacking any human it can. It doesn't even care. I don't even know what. It's not even looking for food. It's just attacking people. This bear is showing no fucking care. This bear is in hunting mode.
the bear's rampage, David Webb, a 49-year-old businessman from Alaska, rushed to his RV to grab 2 rifles. He asked a man standing nearby, 27-year-old Dwayne Eggerbroten, if he knew how to use a gun, to which the latter replied that he did. They rushed to the scene where Arie van der Velden was propped against a log and being ripped apart by the bear. Eggerbroten arrived at the scene first, aimed a rifle at the back of the bear's neck and fired, killing it. He shot the bear twice more to make sure that it was dead. While she was tending to Kelly McConnell, Ingrid Bailey reportedly screamed, "Shoot it again," after hearing the gunshots. Patty McConnell and Ray Kitchen were both pronounced dead at the scene. Kelly McConnell and Arie van der Velden survived. After being flown to the hospital, they both eventually recovered from their terrible wounds. Ray Kitchen was posthumously awarded the Star of Courage for his bravery in saving Kelly McConnell from the bear. US President Bill Clinton wrote a letter to Kitchen's wife stating, "The heroism and selflessness that your husband displayed, coming to the aid of Patty and Kelly McConnell, is an example of all that is noble and good in human nature." Due to increasing bear traffic in the area in the years following the attack, the pool nearest to where the attack took place has been permanently closed, and the nearby boardwalk has been removed. Black bear attacks are very rare, and another one was unlikely to occur, but the park owners obviously wanted to keep the tourists and bears as far away from each other as possible, so that there was no chance of another horrifying attack like this taking place. This entry is tragic on a different level from the previous entry, as the animal attack in question is the result of years of abuse. Tyke was a female elephant born in Mozambique and captured as a baby in 1973 and taken to the United States. She was sold to the Hawthorne Company, who supplied animals to circuses. She was trained to perform from a young age and lived in very inhumane conditions. She would be chained up for 22 hours a day, and in the 2 hours she spent unshackled, she endured harsh training. She was regularly shouted at and beaten. Sally Brown, a former handler of Tyke's, described her as an unhappy camper, and Tyke soon began to rebel against her trainers. Tyke attacked her trainers and even ran wild during performances. A notable case occurred in April of 1993 during a show in Pennsylvania, in which Tyke shook off her chains and attempted to escape. It was at this point that the trainers realized that Tyke had no desire to stay in the circus and would do anything she could to escape. A year later, she would achieve her goal of escaping, but the event would end in tragedy. In August of 1994, Tyke was sent to Hawaii and was set to perform at the Neil S. Blaisdell Center in Honolulu on August 20th. The sellout crowd were expecting a fun, light-hearted show, but unbeknownst to them, the star of the show was an enraged 5-ton African elephant, whose only intention was to escape from the cruelty she'd suffered for almost her entire life. After being led into the arena, Tyke, more enraged than she'd ever been in her life, immediately began attacking her groomer, Dallas Beckworth. She knocked him to the floor and began kicking him around like a rag doll. The audience, however, were not fazed by what was happening before them, as they believed it was part of the show. The crowd quickly realized, however, that something was wrong when Tyke's trainer, Alan Campbell, who was apparently drunk and high on cocaine, tried to wrangle Tyke into submission. Tyke turned her aggression on him and crushed him to death with her trunk.
Listen. when an animal's abused, sounds like an elephant, and if it's abused the way it is, an animal can fucking strike you, bro. An animal can strike you down. And those animals want respect. And they want it now. And they're gonna get, an elephant made sure got it. Taking out fucking 2 people. Both tried just to fucking bully and mistreat this thing. Right on for the elephant. I'm on its side.
The panicked crowd fled the circus as Tyke stormed outside. Publicist Steve Hirano attempted to lock the parking gate to stop Tyke from escaping. Tyke smashed right through the gate and tried to crush Hirano. A police officer fired a shot in her direction, forcing her to flee. Tyke ran through the streets of Honolulu for half an hour, causing $14,000 worth of damage. The police chased her the whole way, eventually cornering her. They then fired, hitting her 87 times. Tyke slowly collapsed as she died from her wounds, bringing her brief experience of freedom to an end. Witnesses noted that they could see the pain and sorrow in Tyke's eyes as she died, and those who were sent to recover her body claimed she had tears in her eyes. Tyke's rampage seemed to have been triggered by the presence of her trainer, Alan Campbell. Campbell had a long history of being abusive towards elephants. Denver Zoo received many complaints about him during his time running an elephant and camel ride there.
So hold on, she was already, she had built up frustration, built up anger, built up hate, just wanted to just gain some respect from these humans. So she's in there, then she sees the trainer, the person's mistreated her the most there, and just snaps, just fucking snaps, and that's the end of it. For that elephant, and then at the end of it she escapes, but then ends up killed as a result. What I will say to this is at the end of the day, she might have gone peace. She might have finally gone peace. Pain she was suffering, she might have gone peace in that. That way she would no longer be suffering and mistreated anymore.
He had been observed hurting the elephants at the concession. It's believed that he is the trainer who publicly beat Tyke during a show with the Tarzan Zerbeni circus, to the point where she was screaming in pain and visibly showed a fear of him after the incident. It's obvious that her fear turned to pure rage when she killed him after suffering so much abuse at his hands. Dallas Beckworth, Tyke's groomer whom she attacked before Campbell attempted to intervene, survived but suffered serious injuries as a result. Tyke became a symbol for animal rights and why wild animals should not be used in circuses. The people of Honolulu demanded that the use of animals in circuses be banned, and while this ban was not passed initially, most circuses in Hawaii immediately removed all animals from their shows, and in 2018, the state formally prohibited the importation of wild animals, including elephants, for use in the circus. As for the Hawthorne Corporation, it was found guilty of violating the Animal Welfare Act in 2004. Hawthorne was forced to release its elephants to more humane facilities, where they could hopefully live out their lives in peace. Tyke suffered abuse from her trainers her entire life. Unsurprisingly, this caused her anger and frustration to build up inside her until she simply couldn't take anymore and lashed out at those who had wronged her for so long. She desired freedom more than anything and finally managed to experience it, but unfortunately, her killing Alan Campbell and going on a rampage through the streets of Honolulu made the police feel that they had no choice but to put her down. In September of 2014, 20-year-old Maksud Khan was visiting Delhi Zoo to see the tiger enclosure, as he had a large fascination with the animals. Maksud had a long history of mental illness, apparently caused by years of cannabis use. However, he was supposedly doing better at that point, and was
Hey, sorry about the cut. I had to go deal with something. Anyways, back to the video.
married with a child on the way. His obsession with the tigers had started after a visit to the zoo in June of that year, and he would frequently talk about the tigers to his wife and other family members. His trips to the zoo apparently became more frequent, after he lost his previous job. Every time he told his mother he was going out to look for a job, he'd actually be at the zoo observing the tigers. As usual, Maksud was alone the day he went to the zoo. He headed straight to the tiger enclosure to take some pictures of the white Bengal tigers. However, Maksud decided he wanted to get closer to the tiger. The guard warned him twice not to get too close to the barrier whenever Maksud would lean over it. Eventually, the guard stopped watching Maksud due to being preoccupied with another matter. No longer being watched, he climbed over the barrier.
So this is a guy with mental illness who has no one there with him, who has a fascination with tigers to an extreme level, and now is moving, and so he is now jumped into the area where the tigers are. So this guy has led himself somewhat to a slaughter.
Reports vary on what exactly happened next, but Maksud either fell or jumped into the moat separating the tiger enclosure from the barrier. Upon landing in the enclosure, Maksud came face to face with Vijay, a 200-kilogram male tiger. Onlookers began screaming and throwing rocks at the tiger in an attempt to get him to leave Maksud alone. However, it would seem that all this did was provoke him. He then pounced on Maksud, holding him down with his paw, and then proceeded to grab him by his neck and dragged him further into the enclosure. He continued to drag Maksud by his neck as the onlookers continued calling for help. It was approximately 15 minutes before officials arrived with meat to lure Vijay into the inside of his enclosure, and another 15 minutes before they actually succeeded. By the time they finally got Vijay to release Maksud, he was already dead.
Oh yeah, half hour with that tiger, there's no way he's still alive. It's just insane to me that the tiger's even like tiger took time to react before it jumped on it, but I thought it would just done immediately. But of course, why did it take so fucking long for people to show up? 15 minutes for it to arrive, them to get there. Why did it take them 15 minutes before they got the damn tiger away from it?
Tiger had crushed his windpipe. Following the incident, Maksud's family blamed the zoo for his death, with his father saying that the zoo should have been investigated for negligence. However, the zoo did...
No, they shouldn't! No, they fucking shouldn't! The zoo has a guardrail. They have a certain area for the tigers. They have a guardrail that you don't jump over. There is nothing this thing could have done besides literally have a big fucking sign that says don't fucking enter. There is nothing they could have done to prevent that mentally ill person jumping into that damn thing. The zoo did nothing wrong.
Did not face legal action from the incident.
No!
Officials from the zoo said that Vijay is not an aggressive tiger and was merely curious about Maksud, hence why he can be seen playfully pawing at him in the video. It was determined that Vijay had not consumed any of Maksud's flesh, meaning he could not be considered a man-eater, and therefore, Vijay was not put down following the attack. He still lives in the zoo to this day, and has even...
Good! Tiger's not been attacked or not been put down because it didn't go after any of his flesh, so it didn't see it as trying to eat it or anything. The zoo didn't face any trouble because it did nothing wrong. Good, I'm glad no one got wrongfully fucking taken down in this, because this all could have been prevented. The dude did not just jump into the area.
Fathered 5 cubs since the incident.
Oh god, a bear named Rocky.
Stephen Miller was an animal trainer, wrangler, and stunt double who worked for Predators in Action, which trained wild animals for use in film and television. The company had trained animals for big Hollywood movies such as Gladiator, The Last Samurai, and Semi-Pro. It was in Semi-Pro where Stephen Miller's cousin, Randy Miller, acted as Will Ferrell's stunt double and wrestled a bear named Rocky. Rocky had been described by Randy Miller as a loving, affectionate, safe bear who, while he was trained to wrestle humans, never showed any aggression and had never been involved in any incidents that resulted in him attacking anyone. On April 22, 2008, several weeks after the release of Semi-Pro, Stephen Miller was performing a stunt with Rocky for an advertisement. Stephen had never been involved with training Rocky, but Randy Miller agreed to go ahead with the shoot because Stephen was an experienced trainer and had recently worked with Rocky in a photo shoot, where the two bonded and got to know each other. Originally, the shoot was supposed to consist of Rocky and Steven standing next to each other before starting a wrestling match. However, during this part of the shoot, Rocky suddenly stood up in his wrestling posture. Steven did not have his arm raised in the position to defend himself, and Rocky attacked him, grabbing his neck in his jaws. Randy Miller attempted to get Rocky to let go of Steven by hitting him with a cane. However, this only seemed to make the situation worse, as Rocky began attacking more aggressively. Eventually, Rocky released Steven, who quickly ran off camera holding his neck. Rocky had pierced his jugular and an artery in his neck, so he was beyond medical help. He bled to death several minutes later. Following Steven's death, an investigation was launched to determine whether or not Rocky would be put down for killing him. Ultimately, Steven's death was ruled to be accidental, and Rocky was not ordered to be euthanized. It was decided, however, that Rocky would no longer be allowed to interact with any people other than his trainers, and could no longer be used in television or film. Randy Miller stated that he would work to have the restrictions on Rocky lifted, as he believed that was what Steven would want. Other trainers who've worked with Rocky since the incident have stated that Rocky is not dangerous, and a petition signed by people from all over the world supported the lifting of Rocky's ban from work. Rocky has since been cleared to return to work in most of the United States, but the ban is still in effect in California. Siegfried and Roy Horn were a pair of German entertainers who began their careers in the 1960s. Their shows consisted of magic tricks and stunts involving animals. After spending several years performing around the world, from Caribbean cruise ships to nightclubs around Europe, the two were discovered by Tony Azzi while performing at the Folies Bergère in 1967 and were asked to take their act to Las Vegas. The two gained massive fame while performing in Vegas, putting on hundreds of shows a year to hundreds of thousands of people. The crowds were wowed by their magic tricks and stunts, particularly with those involving animals, such as elephants, lions, cheetahs, and birds. However, the animals they became the most associated with were white tigers. The two were even parodied on
That's just a dangerous situation waiting to happen.
The Simpsons in the form of the characters Gunther and Ernst, who were always seen with a white tiger named Anastasia. In one of their appearances, the two were attacked by Anastasia during a show, but were shown to be fine later in the episode. It's long been believed that The Simpsons predicted many different events over the years, and a tiger attack happening during one of Siegfried and Roy's shows would indeed occur years after this episode.
The Simpsons have something with them. There is something weird about The Simpsons that need to be figured out on why they do predict so many different things. They need to be fair, because there is someone there who knows shit they're not saying.
October 3rd, 2003, Roy Horn was celebrating his 59th birthday with a lavish party at the Mirage Hotel. By all accounts, he was in high spirits, responding to jokes about his age and how much longer he could continue performing by saying, "I'll retire only when I can't do it anymore." Later that night, the duo were performing a show to a crowd of 1,500 people. Around 45 minutes into the show, Roy led a 7-year-old, 300-pound male tiger named Montecore onto the stage. Immediately after walking on stage, Montecore was distracted by something in the audience and began walking towards them. With no barrier between Montecore and the audience, Horn threw himself into the tiger's path. He ordered Montecore to lie down, but the tiger grabbed his wrist in his paw. Horn lost his grip on the chain that was around Montecore's neck and yelled "release" into the microphone in his free hand. Montecore did eventually let go of Horn, but Horn fell over after being freed. The tiger then jumped on top of him and grabbed his neck in his jaws. Siegfried repeatedly screamed "no" at the tiger and ordered him to let go of Horn. Montecore ignored him and dragged him 30 feet off the stage. He eventually released Horn, who was bleeding profusely from the attack. As medics rushed to help him, he could be heard saying, "Montecore is a great cat. Make sure no harm comes to Montecore." Horn survived the attack, but had to undergo several years of rehabilitation to regain the ability to walk and speak. Montecore was retired from performing after the incident, but made one final appearance with the duo in 2009. Siegfried and Roy retired the next year. Montecore died in 2014 at the age of 17 after a brief illness. Roy Horn passed away on May 8, 2020 due to complications from COVID-19, and Siegfried Fischbacher passed away in January 13, 2021, 2 days after announcing that he had been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer.
Is this the one that has the 911 call attached to it? I know there's one that has a 911 call attached to it of someone getting attacked.
During a lecture at college, one of the teachers asked us all, what is the most dangerous animal to keep in captivity? One person said hyenas, another person said cassowaries, and I said elephants. However, the teacher said we were all incorrect and revealed that the most dangerous animals to keep in captivity are, in fact, chimpanzees. The main reason for this is their intelligence. They observe the people coming in and out of their enclosures, watching for any weaknesses in the security and waiting for their chance to exploit that weakness to escape. Once they have escaped, everyone at the zoo is in danger, as chimps, particularly the males, are extremely aggressive and will attack anyone in their paths. If keeping a chimp in the zoo is dangerous, then imagine having one in your home as a pet. This is the case with the last animal on our list, Travis the chimpanzee. Travis was born in 1995 in the Missouri Chimpanzee Sanctuary. He was taken away from his mother.
I think this is just one where he was just kind of did it out of nowhere, right? Like he just lost it on one of the owner's friends out of nowhere.
3 days old, by Sandra and Jerome Herold, who paid $50,000 for him. The two had bought Travis before he was even born. Sandra was informed of his birth after she landed in the St. Louis airport, with the sanctuary's owner saying, "Your baby has arrived. It's a boy." Sandra and Jerome treated Travis as they would a human baby, feeding him formula, burping him, and even putting him in a crib for naps. After he learned to walk at 3 months old, they began treating him more like a toddler. They taught him to use the bathroom, how to bathe, and even how to brush his own teeth. They also bought him a large collection of clothes and dressed him every morning. The Heralds would also take Travis to work with them at their towing business, where he was very popular among the customers due to his sweet and inquisitive nature. He was also loved by everyone on the local police force, who would regularly interact with him, and it's believed everyone in the force had their picture taken with him at some point. As Travis grew older, he naturally became much bigger, which meant any time he showed aggression had the potential to turn deadly. An incident occurred in which Travis charged at several people after someone threw a soda into the Herald's car where he was sitting. Because he didn't actually hurt anyone, and because the police could tell Travis was only being playful after a while, no charges were pressed. After contacting primatologists, the animal control officers spoke with Sandra, arguing that Travis was now a fully sexualized adult, that he had the strength of at least 5 men, that adult chimpanzees are known to be unpredictable and potentially violent, and that maintaining Travis for the duration of his 5 or 6 decade lifetime was not viable. Sandra seemed to pay an open mind to the officer's warning, but ultimately concluded that Travis had never exhibited even the slightest bit of aggression.
So everyone's just like, listen, this chimpanzee's older. He's got the strength of like 5 men. He's primal. You can't have him as your pet. But this woman didn't want to believe that he hasn't shown any aggression towards her, and he never will. Obviously, that's not the case.
Aggressive behavior. In 2005, Jerome Herold was hospitalized due to his rapidly spreading stomach cancer. While in the hospital, he suggested that Sandra should send Travis to a sanctuary, as he believed the chimp would be too much for her to handle alone. Travis reacted badly to Jerome's absence. Several times Sandra put Travis on the phone to talk to Jerome. Each time, Travis became so upset that she had to take the phone away. Travis would then sit and rock back and forth for hours. In 2006, a year after Jerome's death, Sandra wrote a letter to a respected chimpanzee sanctuary in Florida. These were the last 2 paragraphs. Needless to say, after 45 years...
So at 45 years, most wonderful man in the world, we are both lost without him, miss him dearly. Travis still waits for him, especially at supper time, because at that time they both had a glass of wine with their supper, and my husband never cooked anything you get better has garlic in it. Try not have 2 guys breathing on your sleep time with garlic breath. Travis would go to the bedroom window many nights to look out, get very vocal and happy, then come back to sleep. Finally, she told me Jay would also visit.
Is with the most wonderful man in the world. We are both lost without him and miss him dearly. Travis still waits for him, especially at supper time, because at that time they both had a glass of wine with their supper, and if my husband ever cooked anything, you can bet it has garlic in it. Try having 2 guys breathing on your sleep time with garlic breath. Travis would go to the bedroom window many nights, sit on the bench seat to look out, get very vocal and happy, and then come back to sleep. This was always very late at night. Finally, I went to a psychic, and she told me Jerry would visit at night and talk to Travis, and my husband would always kiss me goodnight. P.S. Him and Travis kiss alike. That's good too. I have no family. My only child, Susan, had gotten killed in an auto accident 4 years before Jerry died, and who Travis also loved. My grandkids live in North Carolina, and I don't see them very often. I live alone with Travis. We eat and sleep together, but I am worried that if something happens to me as suddenly as my husband, what would happen to Travis? Therefore, I have to try to do something before that happens. I set up a trust fund for him, but that's not enough. He needs someone to play with of his own kind, and have the best possible life if I'm not here to care for him. However, Sandra ultimately did not mail the letter. Around the time of Jerome's death, Sandra had reunited with her old friend Charla Nash. Sandra would often take Travis to Charla's house when he was young. The two got along very well, as Travis loved playing with her and her daughter, and would always pose for pictures with them. Charla and her 12-year-old daughter had fallen on hard times, being homeless and with Charla not having a stable job. Sandra allowed the two to live in the loft apartment of her home, and gave Charla a job to support her and her daughter. Sandra began rarely leaving the house, and Travis never went out on trips with her anymore. By 2009, Travis had become grossly overweight, ballooning to 240 pounds. His head had begun balding and his chest hair was greying. He was no longer the cute and playful chimp the locals knew and loved. On February 16, 2009, Sandra noticed that Travis was acting strangely. He ignored all the food that had been left out for him, unlocked the back door, and went out into the yard. She was on the phone with Charla. She told her about Travis. He was outside, she said, running from car to car, apparently wanting to go for a ride. Charla arrived at about 3:40 p.m., opened the iron gate at the end of the driveway, and drove to the front of the house. Travis was in the front yard, about 35 feet away. He ran towards her, then came up on his two legs. Travis knocked Charla into the side of her car, then to the ground. Almost immediately, Charla turned red with blood. Sandra screamed and grabbed a nearby snow shovel. She ran to Travis and began beating him over the head. Travis, however, continued attacking Charla, whilst...
This was when the primal instincts kicked in. This was just him wanting to, like, felt trapped. He was feeling trapped, feeling, not all there. He felt like he just violent. Violence took over for him.
Screaming in a blind rage. Sandra ran to the house to grab a butcher's knife. Travis continued mauling Charla as she ran back and plunged the knife into his back. However, he didn't stop. She pulled the knife out and stabbed him twice more. At this point, Travis briefly stopped and turned to Sandra with a shocked look on his face, unable to comprehend what the woman he knew as his mother had just done. He then returned to attacking Charla. Sandra ran to her.
Wow, so he got stabbed 3 times by his mother, quotations. And when he did, instead of being angry, he almost turned in shock and had a shocked look on his face because he could not believe that his mother had just done that to him. So he was in disbelief and still almost betrayed. Because he probably like, you're saving her over me? Like, you're trying to kill me to save this woman? And then it just felt like it probably set more anger now towards him.
The car parked about 15 feet away. She dialed 911, still holding the butcher knife.
What's the problem there? What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
With a gun! He ripped your face off!
He ripped her face off?
He's trying to attack me! Please!
Okay, I need you to...
The chimpanzee, you betrayed it! You betrayed this chimpanzee! This chimpanzee was never gonna hurt you! But you betrayed it, you became an enemy.
Calm down a little bit, they're on the way.
Wait, hurry up! He's killing our girlfriend! You gotta kill this chimp!
What's the problem there?
Hurry up!
I need you to talk to me, I need you to calm down. Why do you need somebody there?
What? Please, God!
What is the problem?
He's killing my friend.
Who's killing your friend?
That's my chimpanzee. She's dead. She's dead.
Why are you saying that she's dead?
She's dead. He ripped her apart.
He ripped what apart? Her face?
Everything.
The police arrived soon after.
The most violent primal instincts took over. Anger, betrayal, all of it just seeped into this fucking chimpanzee, and he unleashed. Travis unleashed on her.
To find Charlotte's mauled body lying on the floor. Travis attacked the police car as well. Travis then started to attack the police car. He swatted off its driver's side mirror, then went to the passenger's side and tried to open the locked door. He walked around the back to the driver's side and opened the door. The officer immediately shot Travis 4 times. Travis then screamed and ran off. While the officer tended to Charlotte after seeing that she was still alive, Travis had run into the house. He was found later in his room, leaning against his bedpost after having died from the gunshot wounds. Charlotte Nash had suffered horrific injuries from the attack. 1 month after the attack, her family filed a $50 million lawsuit against Sandra. Sandra was traumatized by what had happened, with some believing that she cared more about Travis's death than what had happened to Charlotte. For a long time, inside her house, she refused to clean up his blood. Sandra died a year later during surgery to treat an enlarged aorta after her lungs filled with blood. Charlotte Nash has undergone many surgical procedures to repair the horrific damage done to her by Travis. The surgeons were forced to remove her eyes, as they had been completely destroyed in the attack, and implanted false eyes in their place. She needed to have many skin grafts on her face to reconstruct it, as prior to this, her face had been ravaged so severely that it was completely without features. She also lost her left hand in the attack, and lost almost all of the fingers on her right hand. Jerome Helder had asked his wife to send their beloved chimp, their son, to a sanctuary, as he rightly believed that she would not be able to handle him alone. Sandra's fear of being alone meant she couldn't bring herself to part with Travis. Had she done so, Charlotte would not have suffered her horrific, life-changing injuries. It just goes to show that while chimpanzees may be our closest primate relatives, they should not be living with humans. They may share a lot of similarities with us, but they are still wild animals, and as Travis showed, have the potential to become killers at the drop of a hat.
They're still primal. They are still predators. They are still people who... they are still hunters. That's what needs to be understood. And they can strike just like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction video. Hit the like button, hit subscribe button. Comment what you think down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.